So the one thing that crosses all generations, all countries, everything is music, and the blues, I think, particularly more than any other music, is a real common language.
So do you remember what was your first, what really rang your bell musically, like what age and what it was?
Well, basically, let's put it this way. My first blues concert was Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker when I was 3 years old.
That's good. That's good.
So,
that's a good pedigree there.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like basically, man, when I entered this world, I hit the ground running when it came to the blues, you know. So it just kind of snowballed from that point on, you know. I just, from guys like Howlin' Wolf to Muddy Waters to Robert Johnson, Albert Collins, B.B. King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, you know, just all of them, and then, you know, like even like Blind Lemon Jefferson, Big Bill Broonzy,
sure.
You know, Leadbelly, who,
yep.
you know, had a big influence and impact on the community where I'm from, Shreveport, Louisiana. So being from Louisiana, man, I was right next door to Texas, so I could go down to Austin or Dallas to get a dose of Texas blues. Got a 5-hour drive south to New Orleans to get the New Orleans Cajun Zydeco jazz thing going on. 5 hours north is Memphis, Tennessee, you know. Then a little further is Nashville. So I was surrounded by amazing
the heart
music.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's great. And to have, you know, have you carry on the tradition, you know, at your age, you know, to come up, and I know you started playing professionally very young. How old were you when you did your first gig for money, basically?
Well, the first time
Good or bad?
The first time I set foot on stage, I was 13.
There you go.
And I was down in New Orleans on Bourbon Street with this guy, one of the guys who's featured in the blues project that we just did. His name is Brian Lee, and he's a really talented blues guitar player and singer, and he's a blind player, and it's just fascinating to watch him because he counts the frets, you know, on the neck.
I think I've seen him play.
Absolutely amazing. And he gave me my first shot on stage. People were kind of not taking me seriously. They were blowing me off, you know, because I was so young, you know. But he says in the film, he was like, well, he couldn't see me, so he didn't really know, so he just let me get up and do my thing.
But that's great. He was all about the music. He could hear you, right?
Well, that's what he said. And he says, you know, a lot of times people need to just close their eyes and groove on the sound of the music and forget all the visual aspects.
Now, who was driving you to the gig?
My dad. Well, we went, you know, I was traveling a lot around that time in my life. We would go check out, you know, we wound up in New Orleans about every other weekend, just checking out live music. And you know, back then, I don't know what it's like down there now, but back then it wasn't any problem for a 13-year-old to be hanging out at a bar on Bourbon Street. So, you know, we had a good time, and then by the time I was 14 years old, I went in the studio, did my first demo tapes, and by the time I was 15, I put my own band together, and by the time I was 16, I had my record deal.
Great. That's really cool. So do you remember the first time you heard Hubert stuff and kind of what his sound did for you?
Well, you know, I remember listening to every single Howlin' Wolf CD and tape I could get my hands on. I mean, they have all these big box sets and stuff now, which is great. You can go buy this huge box set and get basically every Howlin' Wolf song that was ever recorded, you know. And you know, one of the things that really stood out to me about the connection between Hubert and the Wolf was when, you know, they took, at a certain point, they took guys like Muddy and the Wolf over to London, England, and they did these sessions, you know, with all those, with all the English cats, you know. But he went with them, you know, and so it was like Hubert was obviously his right-hand man, you know, and it was like Hubert's playing was so immediately, you heard his playing, you knew you were going to hear Howlin' Wolf singing, you know. And he's one of those people. Nowadays, you know, you don't hear a lot of people come up and play the instrument and have their own distinct style, you know. But like he comes from a generation where guys like him and BB and Albert Collins and Albert King and Freddie King, they all had this very distinct. You knew it was them.
Exactly.
You know?
Now, as you go around the world playing, how do you feel about the state of the blues?
Well, let's put it this way: the blues has been around now for almost 100 years. And I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. You know, you see other kinds of music come and go. but the blues is something, as far as music goes, it's going to be a consistency.
Right.
And, you know, like back when Stevie Ray Vaughan was just about, I mean, he was just peaking, you know. There was this huge resurgence in the blues and popularity, and, I mean, you know, it was like an all-time high. And then, you know, it'll go down a little bit, you know, but there's always just this massive worldwide blues fan base,
right?
You know, no matter what, and then you know the fair-weathered fans will come and go when the next big thing comes along, but it's always going to be there, and there's always going to be that support, man. There's just something about the music that identifies with people's hearts and their souls.
Everywhere.
It just resonates
all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And you know, and I just got to say, you know, a lot of people who aren't really familiar with the blues, they just think, oh, it's about some guy whining and crying all the time. The blues makes you feel good, you know, it makes you happy. I mean, you see when Hubert's playing, he's doing nothing but smiling. You know what I mean? I mean, what kind of music do you know that makes a man that happy when he's playing, except the blues?
It really do. It's a thing that really is something about music.
Right.
And I tell you what, if you feel it, I figure you can feel it. If I feel it, I figure you can.
That's right.
I'm gonna make you do it. There's something about, you know, the people. Just something about the people make you a man. Not only that, if you feel it, they're gonna feel it. Music is the word, like they say.